Whenever we get a story like this, I'm very, very often just like, why even bother? Why even bother? Um, how many stories have we covered like this? A business losing 20, 30%, or in this case, they have lost over, I think, 95% of export sales. Yeah, 95% drop in export sales. Like, what are you meant to do? If you're a business and you suddenly lose all this business from the EU, being our closest trading partners, and they aren't going anywhere, and then you've got the government saying, oh, it's okay. What you've really got to do is you've got to go and trade with all these developing economies, all these emerging economies, because that's where all the opportunities are. Okay, the company we're talking about today is a beer company. They can't just start trading with Brazil or trading with Mexico or trading with Australia or India or Japan. You can't just turn on the tap and just start trading like that. That's not how trade works. You've got to send people over there. You've got to make contacts. You've got to find buyers over there. You've then got to try and make an impact in the market. You've then got to try and buy out market share, competing with not only domestic, brewers who might be over there, but also other, foreign importers as well. This idea that you can just go and start trading with another country is not true. It takes a long time, even to just develop 1%. A 1% market share by many UK businesses would be considered fantastic if they could get that. But it takes a lot of hard work to do, and you can't just go and turn it on. And even if you do all that hard work, it's never 100% guaranteed. So let's go diving into this article today to find out more about the beer company, because surprise, surprise, of course, Brexit is to blame here, and why they are having such problems. And of course, it all comes down to the old red tape. And remember, Boris Johnson said that his deal would have absolutely no red tape and that businesses would be able to continue trading as normal. So, but before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and the link to my one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, which is now back and up and active. Thank you for that. And just to prove that it is now back and active, I have updated it with my new logos and banners and whatnot. So it is now back under mine, so you can start using it again. So as always, thank you very much to the people who do help and support the channel, whether you buy me a coffee once every so often, or you support me on Patreon, or there's the YouTube one down below with the thank you button, or there's the YouTube subscription down there where you get sort of emojis and badges where you sign up to that. As always, thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel. So onwards with this then. So this comes from the BBC with the title of Brexit. Tenterden Brewery, I think that's how you say it, says that new export rules have hit sales. So a Kent brewery says it has seen a 95% drop in export sales since the UK left the EU. Are we surprised? No. We have heard this going all the way back to 2016 since the Brexit vote came in. Of what was going on with businesses, the amount of business they were losing in sort of loss of sales and exports. And then obviously once Brexit, quote, finally happened, we've seen the disaster, the loss of businesses that this has had, and it's happened time and time and time again. And not a lot of people really want to acknowledge it. Most probably the Brexiteers. And unfortunately, in the UK, British businesses have a long history of not really talking about this and their problems. So when you see a story like this get into the BBC, you know they've certainly spent a while complaining about it and saying, hey, this is the problem that we're having. So it's really important that these stories do get more volume when they do come out. So anyway, back to it. So the Old Dairy Brewery in Tenterden says that the extra paperwork, what a surprise, customs checks and transport rules are to blame. All down to Brexit. Extra paperwork costs them more money to do that paperwork. Customs checks, that's more time, delays, and more paperwork. And then the transport rules. Transport costs money. To get things from A to B costs money. And yet Brexiteers seem to don't seem to understand that. And going back to our example at the beginning, you think it's somehow cheaper to go from, I don't know, maybe like Kent to, I don't know, somewhere in Germany, or maybe Kent to somewhere in Mexico. That's what they're saying, but they don't even understand their own foreign trade half the time. So anyway, back to it. A body which represents beer exporters says that export costs are now so high, small breweries cannot even afford to send samples to trade fairs. So they're not even talking about this. You've got a situation now where small companies just cannot afford to go to the trade fairs, which is a massively locking them out of the market. Because if you want to go to do these trade fairs, that's part of selling in a foreign country. And if you're locked out of even going to those trade fairs because you cannot afford to do it, this is the amount of insanity we've got to. The government has said that its export strategy will help small companies sell abroad through its free trade deals. Well, those free trade deals haven't reflected that at all. Virginia Hodge, the export manager at the Old Dairy Brewery, said, "They say that Brexit has been done. It may have been done, but there are no solutions to these scenarios," she said. What have we been saying since the very beginning about all this? Warning about what businesses have been saying and been completely ignored on. She continued to say, "How do I get my samples to a trade show? How do I get my samples to importers? There are no solutions to these critical barriers for us to export our beers." Ruth Evans, the chief executive of the Brewing, Food and Beverage Industry Supplier Association, says that the extra paperwork and costs involved were damaging even for product promotion. So you can't even promote your product abroad. There doesn't even seem to be any process yet for samples going to trade shows. You say you want to send 12 bottles of beer to a potential distributor as a sample, and there is no process here. So it can cost £400 for 12 bottles of beer to go over to Europe. For a small business, even a small brewery, £400 can be a lot of money for something you may not even end up getting. The Old Dairy said that it was talking to other small breweries in an effort to try and form a collective to try and share the costs. Mrs. Hodge said, "You can consolidate the orders here. One shipment and one customs declaration, one load of red tape. Then the consumer in the EU has got a larger range of British beers." The Minister for Export, Andrew Griffiths, said, and you've heard this line all before, "We know businesses have had to get to grips with the new rules post-Brexit. Through our export service scheme to our export academy, we are helping more businesses across the country seize these new opportunities in the world's fastest growing markets. Our export strategy is giving businesses the tools they need to become a nation of exporters to reap the benefits of our free trade deals." Well, they're not working. Those free trade deals, as we've said time and time again, are useless. They're not worth it. They aren't bringing the benefit you are claiming to. You've got this company here saying it openly that Brexit, and again, the quote here, "Brexit may have been done, but there are no solutions to these scenarios." What's this brewery meant to do? The EU isn't going anywhere. There are companies still going to want to export to the EU. Why? Because it is our closest trading partner. Time and time again, we've discussed the fact of trade gravity, that countries always trade with their closest neighbors. And yet, that just seems to be ignored completely. Why? Because obviously they're desperate to try and prove that Brexit is some sort of success. Hence why, oh no, go and trade with Australia. Yeah, it's halfway around the world. And yes, it will probably cost you more than £400 for that sample, or to Japan. Do you think what's going to be more expensive? We've seen the cost now of £400. I bet if you looked up the cost of sending 12 bottles of beer to like somewhere in Australia, I guarantee you the cost would be far, far more. And yet, this is the crazy ideas that they have. Oh, we'll leave the EU and we'll start, all these quote emerging markets. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, guys. We've been trying to explain it to you for years. And still, we've had, I don't know how many stories like this one, time and time again, over on this channel, again and again and again. And yet, they still keep on rolling. And you've got it right there. And I think that quote sums it up the best. They say that Brexit may have been done, and it may have been done, but there are no solutions to these scenarios. Why? Because they never had any solutions to these scenarios to begin with. Because they just assumed that we'd leave the EU, we'll start exporting to all these, other countries, and everything will be fine. But it's like, you've got step 1, step 2, there's just a complete blank for step 3, and step 4 is profit. And that's what they're desperately hoping for, that somehow step 3 will either magically happen and it will sort itself out, which it won't, because this is a part where the government needs to actively step in. But of course, they won't. As we've said many, many times, the Tories are dead set against any type of any intervention whatsoever. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Like I say, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and my one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, and it is back up and running now. And of course, down below, there is the YouTube link as well, the YouTube thank you button, and of course the YouTube subscription button as well, where you get some sort of where you get badges, you get emojis, and the more people we get on that, the more badges I can more emojis that I can commission, especially later down the line as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course we'll see you all next time.